C1 Social Awareness Notes. What is empathy? Empathy is the ability to emotionally understand what other people feel, see things from their point of view, and imagine yourself in their place. Essentially, it is putting yourself in someone else's position and feeling what they are feeling. Empathy means that when you see another person suffering, such as after they've lost a loved one, you are able to instantly envision yourself going through that same experience and feel what they are going through. While people can be well attuned to their own feelings and emotions, getting into someone else's head can be a bit more difficult. The ability to feel empathy allows people to walk a mile in another's shoes, so to speak. It permits people to understand the emotions that others are feeling. Signs of empathy. For many, seeing another person in pain and responding with indifference or even outright hostility seems utterly incomprehensible. But the fact that some people do respond in such a way clearly demonstrates that empathy is not necessarily a universal response to the suffering of others. If you are wondering whether you are an empathetic person, here are some signs that show that you have this tendency. You are good at really listening to what others have to say. People often tell you about their problems. You are good at picking up on how other people are feeling. You often think about how other people feel. Other people come to you for advice. You feel overwhelmed by tragic events. You try to help others who are suffering. You are good at telling when people aren't being honest. You sometimes feel drained or overwhelmed in social situations. You care deeply about other people. You find it difficult to set boundaries in your relationships. Types of empathy. There are several types of empathy that a person may experience. The three types of empathy are affective empathy, involves the ability to understand another person's emotions and respond appropriately. Such emotional understanding may lead to someone feeling concern for another person's well being, or it may lead to feelings of personal distress. Somatic empathy involves having a physical reaction in response to what someone else is experiencing. Some people sometimes physically experience what another person is feeling. When you see someone else feeling embarrassed, for example, you might start to blush or have an upset stomach. Cognitive empathy involves being able to understand another person's mental state and what they might be thinking in response to the situation. This is related to what psychologists refer to as the theory of mind, or thinking about what other people are thinking. Empathy versus sympathy versus compassion. While sympathy and compassion are related to empathy, they are important differences. Compassion and sympathy are often thought to be more of a passive connection, while empathy generally involves a much more active attempt to understand another person. Uses of empathy. Being able to experience empathy has many beneficial uses. Empathy allows you to build social connections with others. By understanding what people are thinking and feeling, you are able to respond appropriately in social situations. Research has shown that having social connections is important for both physical and psychological well being. Empathizing with others helps you learn to regulate your own emotions. Emotional regulation is important in that it allows you to manage what you are feeling, even in times of great stress, without becoming overwhelmed. Empathy promotes helping behaviors. Not only are you more likely to engage in helpful behaviors when you feel empathy for other people, but other people are also more likely to help you when they experience empathy. Potential pitfalls of empathy. Having a great deal of empathy makes you concerned for the well being and happiness of others. It also means, however, that you can sometimes get overwhelmed, burnt out, or even overstimulated from always thinking about other people's emotions. This can lead to empathy fatigue. Empathy fatigue refers to the exhaustion you might feel both emotionally and physically after being exposed to stressful or traumatic events. You might also feel numb or powerless, isolate yourself, and have a lack of energy. Empathy fatigue is a concern in certain situations, such as when acting as a caregiver. Studies also show that if healthcare workers can't balance their feelings of empathy, affective empathy in particular, it can result in compassion fatigue as well. Other research has linked higher levels of empathy with a tendency toward emotional negativity, potentially increasing your risk of empathetic distress. It can even affect your judgment, causing you to go against your morals based on the empathy you feel for someone else. Impact of empathy. Your ability to experience empathy can impact your relationships. Studies involving siblings have found that when empathy is high, siblings have less conflict and more warmth toward each other. In romantic relationships, having empathy increases your ability to extend forgiveness. Not everyone experiences empathy in every situation. Some people may be more naturally empathetic in general, but people also tend to feel more empathetic towards some people and less so towards others. Some of the factors that play a role in this tendency include how you perceive the other person, how you attribute the other individual's behaviors, what you blame for the other person's predicament, your past experiences, and expectations. At the most basic level, there appear to be two main factors that contribute to the ability to express empathy: genetics and socialization. Essentially, it boils down to the age old relative contributions of nature and nurture. Parents pass down genes that contribute to overall personality, including the propensity toward sympathy, empathy, and compassion. On the other hand, people are also socialized by their parents, peers, communities, and society. How people treat others, as well as how they feel about others, is often a reflection of the beliefs and values that were instilled at a very young age. Causes of empathy. Human beings are certainly capable of selfish, even cruel behavior. A quick scan of the news quickly reveals numerous unkind, selfish, and heinous actions. The question then is, why don't we all engage such self serving behavior all the time? What is it that causes us to feel another's pain and respond with kindness? The term empathy was introduced in 1909 by psychologist Edward B. Titchener as a translation of the German term einfühlen, meaning feeling into. Several different theories have been proposed to explain empathy. Tips for practicing empathy. Fortunately, empathy is a skill that you can learn and strengthen. If you'd like to build your empathetic skills, there are a few ways that you can do, few things that you can do. Work on listening to people without interrupting. Pay attention to body language and other types of nonverbal communication. Try to understand people even when you don't agree with them. Ask people questions to learn more about them and their lives. Imagine yourself in another person's shoes. Strengthen your connection with others to learn more about how they feel. Seek to identify biases you may have and how they affect your empathy for others. Look for ways in which you are similar to others versus focusing on differences. Be willing to be vulnerable, opening up about how you feel. Engage in new experiences, giving you better insight into how others in that situation may feel. Get involved in organizations that push for social change. Last thoughts. While empathy might be lacking in some, most people are able to empathize with others in a variety of situations. This ability to see things from another person's perspective and empathize with another's emotions plays a very important role in our social lives. Empathy allows us to understand others and quite often compels us to take action to relieve another person's suffering.